to my friend, every single form that we use, see at the tippy top it says Florida Realtors. All of these are prepared by the Florida Realtor Association in Orlando. When you pay your board dues, you pay some money to the National Association, you pay it to the Florida Association, and you pay it to the local association. And the Florida Association of Realtors has a legal team, of course, who doesn't,
yeah.
in Orlando. And the reason we have changes to paperwork is because the legal hotline of this group of attorneys that we pay for in our Florida dues is having all these realtors that are having issues. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So when there's an issue, the Florida Realtors has to rewrite the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
What year was that when we had 7 hurricanes? Was it 06, 07, something? Remember all those hurricanes we had?
Oh, I remember it in 19 when we went to the Greek alphabet. We were all locked down in COVID,
Right.
and we ran out of alphabet.
Right. Well, see, back then, we never had a clause called force majeure.
Oh, you didn't have that?
No, baby, not till 06 or 07 when we had 8 hurricanes.
Okay.
Because, well, Punta Gorda was gone. You know, there was a lot of communities that were totally devastated. And what about all those properties that were under contract?
Yeah.
There was now no docks. There was no seawalls. There was no palm trees. Some of those houses, there was no house.
Mm-hmm.
The Century 21 in Punta Gorda was gone. We all collected money and we drove down there, and I couldn't find Punta Gorda because all the signs were gone. I ended up in Fort Myers, and I turned around and came back up 41.
See, I came down here in December of 07.
Okay, so I think that was...
I missed...
Right, babe, right. And, you know, there's all these people on the road. Could we drive to a Walgreens? Could we get them diapers? The women wanted tampons. I mean, when you drive down there, there's no signs, there's no telephone poles. And, I mean, we just kept collecting money and driving down there, you know, to give. Because my philosophy always is, if that ever happens to Tampa Bay, you know, that was something that left an image embedded in your brain. But back to this. So, I don't care if you win the lottery and you move to Key West and you build the biggest stilt home in Key West. You're going to use this same contract that you used right here with me. If you move to Jacksonville, if you move to Dunellen, this is the entire state of Florida. And that's what a lot of people don't get, honey. And when paperwork is presented to you, I always look at the bottom to see if it's the latest paperwork.
Okay.
Now, this is going to roll out the 1st of November. So right now, this is temporary with the changes. But when the Florida Association of Realtors pushes the button to implant it in our computer, Rhonda will download the latest version into Transaction Desk for you. When I was cleaning out my car 3 weeks ago at the impound lot, I had a listing package and a buyer package in a tub in the back of my car. And when I show you the pictures, Jerry, there's no back end and there's no back seats. And the front seats were smashed into the back. So, thank God my boyfriend is a skinny little in shape guy. So I made him go through the front door and crawl. You know, he had to crawl through. So he's getting all this stuff and he's throwing it out. And I had laundry soap back there. Just bought a big one because I have to go to a laundromat where I live. The laundry soap bottle exploded. So now he picks that up and there's laundry soap. But he's cussing and swearing. So he gets out these listing and buying packages and everything he's just throwing in bags in his car. Not the laundry soap. So Saturday I get home and I said, okay, you have to do this task. You know, you have to go through all these things and reorganize. So I take out these 2 packages. Guess what the date on them was?
29th.
15.
Oh, geez.
But that's what we all do. You know, I teach you always to have a package in your car,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know if you're going to have to do this on the hood of your car at Publix, if you're going to have to do it in Applebee's. Well, mine were from 2015. So I look at those and he goes, "Why are you throwing those away? You made me get them out of your car." I said, "Because, sweetheart, they're from 2015. He goes, "That's my girl, right on top of everything." So it's our job to always put our eyeballs to the bottom and make sure that we have the most recent stuff. But you can be rest assured that October 29th is a Friday, I do believe. It will be available, and Rhonda will update Transaction Desk for you. You can always go in and print blank forms in Transaction Desk. And as I told John yesterday, it's okay to write stuff.
Yes.
You know, don't stress yourself out that it has to be done on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Your seller's not going to think you're a loser. Your buyer's not going to think you're a loser. You know, sometimes it's just easier for me in the field to do this than to try to do it on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me just tell you this. Where did I go to college? Pennsylvania. There are other contracts to use. Jeremy and I are from like this far apart in PA. So this is if your buyer has chosen to purchase as is. If they don't want to purchase as is, there's another contract. There's rumors on the boardwalk and rumors on the street that this is the only contract you may use. That is not true. Realtors use this because they don't want to think, because they're lazy. Now, when your buyer signs this, it's as is. This is where we have a miscommunication in Realtors 6 inches. They have an inspection, and as a listing agent, they email me 68 pages of a home inspection at 3 a.m. Well, I look at my email anywhere from 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning. And when I get an inspection, I don't open it. I don't look at it. Because it says
Why would you?
It says in here, the seller is not obligated to fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually these young girls. And I always pick on Jeremy's wife. I love her. Her name's Brittany. But it's always my IE girls. Tiffany, Brittany.
Luckily, my wife's A and Y, so
Yeah,
IE is
it's the IE girls. And so
ego.
I don't, well, so am I. I don't respond. I don't respond.
Oh,
So
boy.
usually that afternoon about 3, I get a text. Because those girls don't talk. They don't talk. So I get a text and it goes, "So, SOOOO.
Dot.
When did that become a thing? I emailed you the home inspection. You haven't responded. I go, call me. Because I'm not
No.
going to educate her in a text message this long.
Yeah.
So, about an hour later, she calls. She goes, "Hi." I go, "Hi." "So, is the seller fixing the repairs?" I said, "No." I said, "I didn't even forward that to the seller." "Well, you have to." I said, "No, I don't. You presented to me an as-is contract. My seller signed it as is."
Mm-hmm.
"Well, my buyer wants everything fixed." I said, "Well, what would everything be?" "Everything." Now, I know you know, and Jeremy knows, there's a summary page. Let's say that, unbeknownst to me, the garbage disposal started leaking. Well, I might ask my seller to fix that. But you don't send me 68 pages. You send me the summary. And so now COVID has just turned me into the person I wasn't before COVID. So now I say, oh, then she goes, my buyer's not happy. Like 10 times. My buyer's not happy. I said, well, your buyer's happiness does not constitute an emergency for the seller and I. Then there's silence. I said, are you there? Yeah. I go, well, my suggestion to you is that you reach out to your buyer. You're still within your inspection period. And you send me over a release and cancellation of contract. And then there's total silence.
So you can do that if you've presented an offer's
Yes,
been
honey.
accepted.
Yes.
You get the inspection, and you're not happy with the repairs. You can pull out, even if you've signed an as is.
It's the only time you can.
Okay.
Really.
Now, I'm going to teach you this. Even though I write an as-is offer to purchase with 5 days for inspections, my buyer doesn't even have to have any inspections. They can go home and sleep on it and cancel without inspections as long as it's within the inspection period.
What is the inspection period?
However many days you put in.
You can put 5 days, you can put 10 days. It's blank.
Okay.
And we'll get to that, honey.
Yeah.
But this is what realtors don't know
So
when
much
they're
to learn.
yeah, when they're writing these as is. And so back to my little youngin'. So I said, are you there? She goes, yeah. I said, well, call your buyer and get that paper over to me. So about an hour later, she calls me. I talked to my buyer. They're okay with everything. We're moving forward. I go, you little bitch. See, everybody today wants to get a little something, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that we're having problems is selling agents are entering into an as-is offer to purchase without explaining to the buyer what that
What it
means.
is.
Now, in an as-is offer to purchase, it states the buyer may fix things if they want. So if all of a sudden the garbage disposal exploded this morning because my 90-year-old mother put a spoon in again, and then it's running, and she goes, ooh, ooh, ooh. I go, how about you flip the switch? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Every spoon I own,
It's got nicks all over it.
nicks, jags. You know, I go to eat some ice cream and I'm like, what? Why is this spoon all jagged? But see, the problem is realtors today are not educated, and they hear from other people, oh, just do the as is. Seller will fix everything. Why would I even send 68 pages to my seller when it's as is? Because I tend to believe in as is. My seller's selling it as is. So we usually adjust the price to compensate for not fixing anything. So now my seller has accepted a signed contract, adjusting the price because he doesn't have to do anything.
And they don't necessarily have to adjust the price either. I mean,
No.
it's as is. So they,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I see the advantage for the seller to get an as-is contract, of course, so that they're not obliged to fix anything.
right.
But
As a buyer,
there's no advantage to the buyer.
not really. No.
Do you know it's an as-is contract before you introduce a buyer?
Yeah, it says. I mean, there's the other contract.
It should all
I
be on the
forget-
MLS.
No, it's in the transaction desk is where the contracts
Okay.
are. What's the other contract one called, Debbie? I forget.
I think it's called residential sale and purchase.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just doesn't have the as is part there.
Okay.
And you know, I think a big part of the problem, why everyone uses the as is because from the top, that's what they teach. Like when I was going through real estate school, we never talked about we talked about the as is contract when I went through. We didn't talk about the other contract at all. when I went through pros, the 2 classes I did through pro, the only contract we talked about was the as is. So I think a lot of people just, they know it's there, they just don't feel comfortable using it. It's not much different. I mean, it's a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for, where you actually have to pay attention to what you're doing. But what you just said a minute ago is, you're right. There is no real advantage for a buyer to use this unless they want to get the property. Like if my seller has an as-is contract for the exact same amount as the residential sale and purchase, but this one has stipulations in it, the buyer has an advantage because they might not have to replace $5,000 worth of stuff. The seller can look at it and say, well, this one I have to replace this, and this. It's going to cost me money out of pocket. This is an as-is.
So you can have 2 contracts. A seller
No.
can.
No.
So
You're only going to
But
present
you have
one.
different choices of what you're going to use.
Okay.
You have 2 choices of. Actually, I think there's more than 2, right?
Well, there's a commercial.
Right.
There's residential sale and purchase, and there's as is.
Right.
Okay.
So you're gonna have 2 residential contracts to choose from. You're only gonna submit one. You're not gonna submit both. But if a person who's selling their home gets 2 contracts, like Debbie sends a contract and you send a contract,
Okay.
yours is as is and hers is residential. You might have a little bit of an advantage because Debbie might have a list of things that needs to be fixed in the residential contract, and yours is as is.
Okay.
So the seller may look at that and say, I don't want to do any repairs. I want to sell it as is. I don't want to deal with the headache that Debbie's giving me. I'm going to go with yours.
And so with it being a seller's market right now, this is obviously the one that's being used the most, I would think.
Well, no, honey, it's the condition of the property.
Yeah.
So let's say
Yeah,
I go
that-
out and I show a house today, and along the windowsills I see termite poop. You know those granules is their poop. Or I see them down here. And I asked the listing agent, does the seller have a termite contract? Well, it's now called WDO, wood destroying organisms. And she goes, no. So I'm smart enough to know that I'm not going to use as is, because the seller has to get those termites fixed. And in the other one, babe, it says, if left blank, certain percent or dollar value for WDO. Certain percent of sales price or dollar value for warranted items.
Okay.
Certain percent or dollar value for open permits. So see, before I write an offer, I have to investigate the house before I pick this. And if I go into Pinellas County and the roof that was put on in 2019, the permit was never closed, oh shit, I'm not going to use this. See, your brain, honey, determines the paperwork that you're going to put your buyer in. But nobody gets that. If I went in this office right now and I ask every agent, do we only use the as is? Yeah, that's all we use. One of my best friends, who's an experienced agent, I did sales meeting a couple of years ago, and I was on this as is rip because it pisses me off. I mean, if I see termite poop 2 inches, and I said, this is how times change. So I said, stop using the as is. And she, my friend, in sales meeting, in front of everybody said, well, you just don't like it. I said, no, this is not about me not liking it. And she said in front of my peers that everybody uses the as is. I'm gonna sneeze, sorry. Everybody uses the as is, and every seller expects repairs. And I said, that's not true. Well, when I did sales meeting 2 weeks ago, she was in there bitching. You know who I'm talking about?
I can make a guess.
Lilly. I love her. She was in there bitching at sales meeting because these agents on her listings are writing as is and then expecting repairs.
I mean, I can almost see her viewpoint because so many people do use it. It's almost like everyone is using it. Like I kind of understand like the logic behind what she said, and because they're not doing a very good job of educating their sellers, the sellers do expect to do repairs because they're not doing a very good job of educating their sellers, which is our job. Like, so I get the logic.
Makes sense.
Unfortunately, sellers do expect to have repairs because no one's telling
Nobody's
them
telling them.
that they don't necessarily have to.
Well, and how come I read in listings, listing agent being sold as is, seller makes no repairs. You know those profile sheets I showed you yesterday that you fill out all that stuff to get it into MLS?
Yeah, yeah.
And every agent is checking as is. Now, this is going to blow your mind. Are you ready? There's a thing, and I know you know this. It's called a 4-point insurance inspection. Any home that's 25 years or older, the insurance companies are requiring a 4-point insurance inspection. The reason it's called 4 points is because they check the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, and HVAC. 4 things, 4 point. Yeah, Jer?
Okay, I'm going to ask a question about this just because I want to make sure.
Yeah, baby.
Are we required to do a 4-point inspection before it closes? If it's over the 25 years?
Well,
Or is
how's your
that-
buyer going to get insurance?
Well, right. But is that up, like, say for instance, if you have a buyer who all they want to do is a home inspection, will it,
When I go list a single family home, I explain to the sellers about the 4-point insurance inspection. It's the 4 main systems of the house. They're anywhere from $65 to $125. I make the seller get that before it goes live in MLS.
Okay.
And it goes in that paper clip.
Okay.
You know I love that paper clip. And I say in realtor remarks, because unfortunately a lot of my realtor friends are not educated. And I say, please go to the paper clip. 4-point inspection attached. And if those 4 points are functioning, don't ask me for shit.
So, okay, that's a best practice, but we're going to run into a lot of situations where they don't do that.
Most agents don't know what a 4-point is.
Right. So my question still is, if you have a buyer who buys a place and all they want to do is a home inspection and they close on it, if they come down the road and say, why didn't I do a 4-point, or why, like, my insurance dropped me or something like that, what is our liability there?
Oh, honey, we never have any liability once it closes. Remember it says on paragraph 19,
The
professional advice and broker liability?
So the reason I'm asking this question is I closed the place in February. Remember the woman that was in the really bad car accident and the husband who was a veteran? She had pretty severe brain injuries.
I think I do.
Well, she can't remember. You can have a conversation with her and she wouldn't remember the beginning of the conversation before you finish the first paragraph of what you were talking about. So because they had to do an engineering report because they bought a manufactured home, and they had to do that, and they had to do engineering for tying the property down, and they had to do a home inspection. They chose not to do a 4-point inspection. Well, she called me and left me a message while I was in my stupid appointment. I haven't called her back yet because I completely forgot to. But she called me on Monday while I was having my epidural done to tell me that she lost her home insurance because there is no 4-point inspection.
No, that's not true. She can still get a 4 point. Jeremy,
Right.
you and
Well,
your wife own your
hold on,
house,
hold on.
and you should get a 4 point
but-
now.
Well, no, I know that. We've had 4 points done for ours, but my question is just if there's any liability, if there's anything.
No.
I mean,
No,
okay,
no. When we close, we close. Buyer beware.
yeah.
Buyer
Okay.
is to have any and all inspections. Seller is to do what he's
So-
supposed to do.
So the home inspection is different. from
Totally.
the
Totally
4
different.
point.
It's
Totally
it's an apple and a pig.
Okay.
They don't match.
Different companies, or you can use the
Well,
same company.
there's some
for
that do
both
both.
inspections?
Well,
There's
some
some-
home inspectors have gotten licensed by the insurance industry to be able to conduct a 4 point insurance inspection.
Right.
But
Okay.
I don't know how they got insurance without getting a 4 point. You get a reduced rate. That's why everybody wants it.
Right. So I don't know because they had insurance the day we closed.
Right, but they didn't get the best rate because they didn't get a 4 point.
They had a good rate actually.
well, honey, I
like
don't know.
that's why they were all excited. Everyone they were like it was like $700 a year for their insurance, which was pretty good. So I knew we didn't do a 4 point inspection. I told them to do one eventually. Like I said, you're gonna want to, but they had to dish out because the engineering report was so expensive. That was like $500, and the regular home inspection was expensive. They chose not to do the 4 point right away. So I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything that I have to do.
No, baby, when you close, you're done.
Good.
When you
Because they
go
drive me crazy. Because she literally, this is the problem with this couple. The husband refuses to take any responsibility. He's the one that does not have brain damage. The wife can't remember things. Like I remember when I was trying to do this deal. I don't know if you remember, Debbie, but there was one day they were staying in a hotel, and I had to drive to their hotel 7 times in one day because she couldn't remember how to do certain things. And I would show her, and she would do like part of it, and I would tell her husband, but her husband wouldn't pay any attention. So I would end up driving back over and saying, well, why aren't you, like, should I just stay here and make every one of these phone calls for you? I ended up doing that. He needed to get his retirement from his job in Pennsylvania. Well, she couldn't remember what she had to do. So I spent one whole day, like 6 hours at their hotel, making phone calls with them because he wouldn't listen to what I was telling them to do, and she couldn't remember.
Right. But Jeremy, see, I have a lot of friends that own single family homes. And this started about 3 months ago,
Right.
July. And their insurance company dropped them.
Right. And I think that's what happened to these people.
Right, honey. And so now my friends are having to go out and get a 4 point.
Right.
And the insurance industry now are worse than communist pigs. The insurance
pretty bad.
company is the worst association in our country. I don't care if you live in Colorado. I don't care if you live in Meadville, Pennsylvania. Everybody thinks it's Pinellas County because we have all this water. No. I mean, you have to have flood insurance in Colorado Springs.
Right.
Everybody goes, oh, we have to have flood insurance because we're in Florida. And everybody goes, well, I have to have AE because I'm on Corey Avenue in St. Pete Beach. Her and I, on Lake Semihole, are in AE. We are in the same flippin' flood zone.
I have flood insurance.
Yeah, on Corey Avenue. Timberwoods is AE, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah. People need to get educated about how insurance is going.
Right.
But number one, you have no liability. When you walk out of the closing, the buyer is signed, the seller is signed, the loan has been approved, the seller gets his proceeds, you have a check to tote back to Ruth.
Right. Yeah, I heard that voicemail, and I was like, because she had called me a few weeks before and said, hey, can you drop off the home inspection? I kept a copy of it because I knew they'd lose it. So I drove all the way up to Oldsmar from my house and they weren't home, so I dropped the regular home inspection off. But okay. Well, then I screwed up my phone, and I didn't have a good phone for like 2 weeks because I screwed up. And then I had my thing done, and the voicemail was rambling, and it was, they need a 4-point inspection. I called Scott. He did the inspection. Scott said I only did a home inspection. Jeremy should have they all said I should have a 4-point inspection. So we didn't do a 4-point inspection, so why would I have a 4-point inspection?
Right. See, Jeremy, you have to understand that once everybody signs at the closing table,
Yeah.
it's over.
Well, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure, like, if there's a way what I needed to tell them to do, like what I should refer them over to do, or what.
Right.
When I did tell them that, you know, the insurance company is the one that's going to tell you if you need a 4-point inspection,
Of course you do.
and that's what you should do.
Right.
But
let's
see,
say-
a lot of people think that a home inspection and a 4-point inspection are the same thing.
I know. That's what makes me nuts.
That's
Yeah.
why I asked that question.
Right.
So basically, if you've got a listing, you should recommend to the seller, if the house is more than 25 years old, to get a 4-point inspection.
Honey, here's what I
You
do.
can't make them do it.
And
if you've got a buyer,
I can make them do it.
you do?
Oh yeah, because
Okay.
I'm at their house and I said, okay, do you want to spend $65 to $150 now?
Yeah.
Or do you want to get this under contract? And then we're getting nickeled and dimed to death.
Okay.
Now, most of them I can get to pay. But if I can't, then I take a blank piece of paper and I write, Dr. and Mrs. Myers, we are having a 4-point inspection next week. I, Deborah H. Sundow, will pay. And Deborah H. Sundow will be reimbursed at closing. I guilt them. And then usually they go, oh, okay, Debbie, we will. But, if I pass the 4-point, plumbing, electrical, heating and cooling, and a roof.
Mhm.
It's the 4 biggest systems in the house.
Mhm.
And if my 4-point inspection says excellent, excellent, don't ask me for nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
See, we need to work smart,
Mhm.
and we're not. We're listening and we're training, but then we get in a situation and we buckle.
Right.
And you got to stand your ground.
Mhm.
And what I think people don't understand, like a home inspection, that guy's not licensed in HVAC. He's not a roofing.
He's a nothing.
Yeah, he just went downtown, got certified to do home inspections.
Okay.
So he's got a very limited knowledge of he looks at everything, but he doesn't know anything about pretty much any of it. He knows just a basic, like the most basic thing, like probably as much as Debbie does about termite poop. Like he can't say for sure that there's termites. This appears to be termite poop.
It appears to be
You
active.
should have a licensed
Right.
wood
A
destroyer.
home inspector has a city license.
Right.
And they make me nuts. They go to Home Depot and they buy every gadget.
Mm-hmm.
They're sticking things in my outlets and they're sticking things here, water meter. Oh, it's just such a bunch of banana splits. But everything they say, honey, every category,
All qualified.
it says, buyer should
Consult.
hire the person that holds the appropriate license. They're scab pickers. Well, the buyer doesn't want to do that. The buyer gets the 68-page report, weather conditions, sunny, temperature 92.
So I'll give you an example. When I had my listing in Lake Seminole, the home inspector went upstairs and all he did is he ran the bathtub and it drained slowly. He didn't look to see why it drained slowly. He didn't look at the pipes or anything like that. So he didn't notice that there was a clump of soap at the top of the drain that all he had to do was pick it out and it would have drained perfectly fine. But it goes into the home inspection. So the buyer's agent called me and wanted to have a plumber go look at it. So I called my seller and said, hey, this is what's going on. She knew a guy who was a handyman. He came over, looked at it, and 3 seconds later it drained fine.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, there were certain things we said we'd fix. Once we realized that the drain, all it needed was to have the clump of dial soap pulled out of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, yeah, we'll fix that. That's no problem. There was like another thing that was like a 40-cent twisty tie that all it took to fix this other thing. And then the other thing was we had to relabel the power, the breaker box, because it was labeled wrong. Cost us absolutely nothing. So we agreed to fix all that stuff. Then they hired another inspector to come out and re-inspect all the things that we did. They didn't need to do that. Like, they spent an extra, what, $150 to have that home inspector come back out and just make sure that the dial soap was out of the way so it drained fine. Because he didn't look at the pipes. I mean, he would have had no idea if it was an actual problem or if it was something, minor like that. So they're always going to have that qualifier. See,
Right.
the
See,
appropriate licensing.
they are only there, baby, with their cell phone, with a program on it. It's a home inspection report. And they're more busy clicking the boxes.
Yep.
And every category, it says what I just said. Buyer to verify by the person that holds the appropriate license. They're not licensed to do anything except create issues. I had a condo at Boulevard this winter. Turned on the bathtub faucets, the water flowed like Niagara Falls. Flushed the toilet, perfect. Bathroom sink, perfect. Dishwasher, perfect. Water wouldn't come out of the kitchen faucets. Seller should hire a licensed plumber to replace all of the water pipes to the kitchen sink. Don't ever forget this. So I call my plumber. I was freaking. He comes out.
Twist the valves.
No. The aerator, the thing that screws
yeah.
into your faucet.
It's clogged.
Well, it wasn't clogged. It was full of calcium because the condo had been empty for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
So my vendors are so awesome. So he unscrews that, the water pours out. He hands it to me. He said, take this back to your house, which is 1 door down. It wasn't like I had to go real far. He said, pour some vinegar on here with the toothbrush you clean your grout with and get right back here. So I did. I went next door, put the vinegar, brush, beautiful. I walked back over, he screwed it back on. He goes, there you go, babe. You don't have to replace all of the plumbing in the kitchen sink. I said, what do I owe you? He said, I can't charge you. He said, God bless you. My vendors are so tired of me circling the drain with home inspection reports. A few years ago, I had a condo cleaned on St. Pete Beach at Yacht and Tennis. And my cleaning lady took all the knobs off of the stove, because they were all greasy and yucky. And when she put them back on, she didn't push it tight. So Sally Jane takes her buyers for the walkthrough, and she calls me up and she goes, the stove doesn't work. We want a new stove. I said, well, this is really weird. So I call my handyman. He goes, meet me down there. So he goes to the stove. He pushes, turns, lights up. Pushes, turns, lights up. I go, how much do I owe you? He goes, nothing, Debbie. So now I have learned from issues that are always caused by another realtor. They're not caused by me. That I need to go in there and investigate, especially vacant properties or properties that you have cleaned. How would I have ever thought my cleaning lady didn't, how it's round and then one side is flat and it has to go into that.
Has to go in the right way, yeah.
Honey, the people that are successful in this business, it's not the car they drive. It's not their nails, their hair. It's Are we recording? Okay, so you see how this all plays out?
You don't have to have a home inspection though if the house is less than 25 years old.
Well, that's a 4
A
point.
4 point. But you don't have to have a home inspection. That's the buyer's choice.
Nobody has to have a home inspection.
You just have to have an appraisal if you're borrowing, if you're getting finance. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, nobody has to have any inspections. Now, everybody wants to get the 4 point because that's to get a reduced insurance policy rate.
Okay. Got it.
4 point is for insurance reduction rate only. Does that make sense?
Well, it also protects the seller, like you said. If they can show a 4 point, don't ask me for anything.
And that's what I do, babe.
Yeah.
And I put them in the property.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in MLS
Mm-hmm.
because realtors don't go to the paperclip, but you will. The paperclip is the paperclip is where all the jazz is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put in realtor remarks. Satisfactory 4 point inspection available in the paperclip.
Mm-hmm.
And I say also for your convenience, 4 point inspections are at the property on the buffet server. So when they go in, hopefully they will hand one to their buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And the buyer can see the roof has 17 years, the AC, whatever, blah, 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 blah. So don't ask me for any stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stop it.
Yeah.
But the problem with realtors is, not the three of us, but they don't think. Everybody wants to get somebody and slap paper on them. We're also worried about papering people. Well, I don't believe I can paper until we've had these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like to drive my buyers. As much as I hate it, I like to drive them because now they're a captive audience. And we can have these conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And really, at the end of the day, the buyer should be picking if they want to go as is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm an as is girl. I always want to buy the worst property in the worst condition. Because what do we sell? Location, location, location. And I am not going to pay for somebody else's Home Depot job. Went to see a house about 6 weeks ago. And you know at Lowe's and Home Depot you can buy those 2 round lights in a package for $19.99. Well, I put them in my walk-in closets. And I go into this house, flipper, for $475,000. And those 2 lights that you get for $19.99 at Home Depot are in the kitchen. See, I am not going to pay for somebody else's flipper job.
Mm-hmm.
I love these flippers that don't change out the doors, the interior doors. 6-panel doors are $19.99 at Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like to my friends, you're going to buy this house for $450, and you've got these old doors from 1962.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be so aware of our market. Read this morning in FAR, prices of lumber has gone down 65%. If one more person says to me, well, with COVID, you know, and you know what I say? No, I don't know with COVID.
There are still some shortages.
Oh, I know, babe, there's
Crazy.
shortages. But, oh yeah, Ruth's been trying to buy a car for...
We're having our bathroom renovated, and it's 19 weeks to get a new bathtub.
And, you know, she couldn't find a car, So she ordered one somewhere that was supposed to be coming into Greenville, South Carolina, BMW factory. But 3 weeks ago, she had gone to Furman BMW in Tampa. Oh, it could be 6 months. Last Wednesday, her car came into Greenville, South Carolina. And the next day, Furman called her in Tampa and 2 cars were right there. You know, I have learned in COVID that people like to dwell on the negative. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about the positive.
That's a fact. It's
Yeah, I mean, I am so saddened that COVID allowed intelligent people to hang on to the negative.
Mhm.
And we got to get rid of that.
Mhm.
That is a terrible,
Maybe
terrible.
you just had the time to figure out that they're not intelligent.
Yeah.
It's also an excuse.
Oh, it's totally an
It's
excuse.
totally an excuse for people that don't want to do things.
Right. If one more person says,
Yeah.
well, you know, with COVID,
Mhm.
I'm sure you were too. Jeremy and I were here every day.
Yeah, you said. Yeah.
We,
Yeah, I haven't missed a day at the gym since my gym opened. I wouldn't have missed a day at the gym if the gym hadn't closed.
Right.
You know, I see all these people that talk about how much weight they gained over COVID.
Oh, yeah.
or how they don't need money or blah 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 blah. And it's like, I was driving for Lyft, doing open houses, owning my own business, not sitting on my tail. I earned every designation you can think
Right.
of.
and so many, my neighbors say, because they're all coming back, you know, from the north, and they go, oh my, and all their faces are like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, oh my God, you lost weight in COVID. I said, yeah, I worked every day. I mean, some of my neighbors, Jeremy, that are coming back, I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I look at them and I go, they sat home for 19 months and ate Doritos.
Yeah. Ordered Chipotle and
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But you know what? We're here. We get it and we want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess next week maybe I should teach the difference again between 4-point and home inspection. I think that is the biggest problem with agents.
I think, yeah, I think it is. And I think it's knowing how to educate your buyer about the difference between them and educating your seller on the need to have it done before you list.
Right. Because, Steph, if I go to a single family home listing
Mhm.
and I knock on the door and they go, what do you want to see? I go, the first thing I want to see is I want to go to your garage. And they look at me like, we got a wacko here today. And I go in the garage and I go to the electrical panel and I open it up. And I go, this is a Federal Pacific. This is a Zinsco. And before I can market your home for sale, you are going to have to hire a licensed electrician to replace this.
Or a Sylvania.
I won't list it. So, you know what they say? Some people told us about that. And they go, you're the 4th realtor that came here. And those other 3 realtors didn't tell us about that. I said, well, it's a good thing I was number 4 and I showed up today.
So I actually have a little bit of a question about the power breaker. When I had the listing over in Lake Sentinel, you mentioned that they had a master policy, so I didn't have to worry about
That's a different thing.
Okay.
Condos are different than single family. Those panels are allowed in condos because the condo has a master policy on every building.
Okay. Should we recommend that they get it replaced anyway?
No, hell no. Jeremy, I told you this.
Well, the reason I ask is I know that they're crap and they have a tendency to blow.
Well, that's your knowledge. I have a wonderful licensed electrician that's been doing this for 40 some years. And I have a Zinsco at Boulevard. And I have a Zinsco at Timberwoods. And every time I get a little extra money, don't have any now, crash my car, I call him up and I go, okay, let's change out these panels. And he goes, why do you want me to take your money? I go, because home inspectors are telling me I'm going to burn up in the middle of the night. He goes, would you get off this? But home inspectors have jaded my mind.
Yeah.
And
So-
they're not licensed electricians.
So does every condo have the master
Yes.
policy? So we don't have to worry about that at all.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, Jeremy, and it's every building. So I live in building 8. And I'll show you the new budget when I get the new stuff. It's coming out January 1st. Building 8 has their own master policy.
Okay.
Across the street, building 4 has their own policy. Because some of those buildings, baby, are longer than others.
Right.
So they have more units. Or in those buildings, they have the 3 bedrooms, more
Right.
3 bedrooms.
Okay.
So, yes, and why do condo maintenance fees go up? Oh, we got our new proposed budget, everybody's wiggy-diggy. I had to talk my boyfriend off the wall last night. I said, here's the new budget proposal. I go, you're a paramedic, listen to me. Why is it going up? Insurance.
Right.
The insurance at Boulevard, I believe, is close to $500,000 a year. I can't even imagine what it is at Seminole Isle. And every one of us has to pay a portion of that. Where I live, there's 264 homes. And I have to pay 1/264th.
Would the condo association ever be able to force you to replace your, like if they decided that they didn't
Well,
want
it wouldn't be the condo, baby. It would be the insurance industry.
Right, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if the
I mean, if the
is-
insurance industry says we have Bouchard in Sarasota, a lot of commercial people have it. And if Bouchard Insurance, because they're the dictators,
Right.
says that we will no longer insure any properties that have Zinsco panels on the property or Federal Pacific panels, then our insurance is going to be dropped.
Right. So could they do a special assessment to,
No,
or would you have to
no,
replace it
baby,
on your
because
own?
I own my panel.
Right.
So
Then you'd have
if
to.
the insurance drops this, then the Boulevard Club is going to have to pass that information on to each homeowner, because I own my electrical panel, I own my hot water tank,
Right.
I own my HVAC, I own my dishwasher. Then each individual owner would be given so much time
Okay.
to replace that, so we could get insurance.
Yeah, I feel like eventually that's going to happen. I mean,
Oh, Jeremy.
because those things are just getting older and older and older. They're not building new ones. So I feel like eventually the insurance company is going to be like,
Well, Jeremy, the insurance is like every other thing in our country.
right.
And that's why I couldn't list that house in Pinellas Park. The seller got a letter from her insurance company. July 1st, they were dropping her insurance because she needs a roof.
Right.
Well, the roof was $8,000. She
Mhm.
can't afford a roof. So I told her to shop insurance. I gave her every insurance person I know. And she's just great lady, but she's not proactive. She's not responsible for her stuff. So as of October 1st, her lender put insurance on her house. Just like if we don't put insurance on our car. And you know how much that costs.
Mhm.
So now her house isn't saleable
Right.
because she was not proactive when her insurance company dropped her because of the roof.
Was this the lady with the shed in the back? With the
Yeah, where the son was living
Uh-huh.
with a girlfriend and a 3-year-old that was nonverbal.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Where do you get your bombs from?
Referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you see, when somebody says, I want to sell, most agents start running up and down the boardwalk. I gotta do this paperwork, help me. Yesterday, I asked, is his name Joe?
John.
John. I asked him 10,000 questions when you all left. So worried about the paperwork. I said, what's the age of the seawall? What is the electrical panel? What is the...
Shouldn't he have put that in the paperwork anyway, with all the questions about the property?
He wanted me to figure out his commission on $950,000. And here's another thing I'm going to tell you. I never figure out my commission, because if I do, it doesn't close. That is the biggest jinx you can give yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Do not ever calculate your paycheck. And I didn't get picked for my offer yesterday. I didn't know I didn't get picked until the buyer texted me at 9:30 last night. It was pending in Zillow. The listing agent never could email me or text me and tell me they selected another offer, my full price, with 150 cash down. But whatever. It's, I think in a nutshell, I can put this all back together for us this morning. It's communication.
Yeah.
When I go on a listing appointment, oh sure, I got the papers in my car. But what have I already done? I have already spent an hour going into Pinellas County,
Right.
checking the permits, reviewing the public records, looking at the activity in the community, and I've already gotten in my car and got a Starbucks and driven the subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your subdivision, we don't have to do that because it's apples and apples.
Mm-hmm.
But where Jeremy lives in the city of St. Pete, it ain't apples and apples.
No, it's not.
But how can you be so concerned about filling out paperwork and knocking on somebody's door and you don't know what's going on in there? And every single time I say to a seller, let's take a look at the garage. And they're like, okay. And I have to leap over boxes, lawnmowers, bicycles to get over to that wall where the panel is, and I open it up and I go, congratulations, we're in good shape. And then I tell them the story. And where do I get my information? I don't listen to anybody. I don't listen to Ruth. Because Ruth still thinks that COVID is terrible and you can't buy anything and you can't do anything and blah, blah, blah. I call my vendors.
Mm-hmm.
I call a licensed plumber. I call a licensed HVAC. I call a licensed electrician. And my plumber's like, we do most of our business at 7:15 in the morning. I know he's always up. He's getting his crews out to be on the first call at 8, right? And I go, I feel really bad, but I have a question. He goes, oh, honey, you know you can call me anytime. But I have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But you're never going to learn nothing, sweetie, from a home inspection report.
I got that.
The most you're going to get from a home inspection report
It's a headache.
Well, no. You're going to do one, and then you're going to get another listing, or you're going to get another property, and you're going to go look at all the things that are on that property inspection report you did before, and just double check them before you even do anything else. Like when I did the Lake Seminole one before I sold the crazy people their house. No, backwards. When I sold the crazy people their house, they did a home inspection. So when I went to Ellen's house to list it, I went through that home inspection and pretended like I was doing the home inspection for her place.
Mm-hmm.
That way I would know. That way, that's why when they sent us the as-is contract, we knew, other than those 3 things that they needed fixed, we knew what to do before they got there.
Because you know what the home inspectors.
Because we knew what he was going to look for.
Yeah.
And we knew that home inspector was going to be a major pain in our ass if we didn't do it beforehand. Because we knew that the buyer's agent was going to recommend we fix everything.
Okay.
So I was just like, you know what? I went through it. I have a little gun that tells you the temperature of the AC that comes out, and when I did the little gun thing, I have the same knowledge about it as the home inspector does. It was fine. So I said, okay, we don't have to worry about this. We don't have to worry about the electrical voltage coming out of because I have a voltage meter at my house. Check that. I knew everything was working fairly well. When the home inspector came through and they sent us the whole thing and said, we need these things fixed. I said, well, I can pull the dial soap out of the damn bathtub. That's no problem. You know, I can get the little twisty tie thing and tie that little cord where it needs to be tied. So that's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn what to look out for before you have to look.
So tell me what tools you need if you're getting a
Well,
listing.
honey, let me just stop.
You don't need any.
You because see, the thing is, we're not really licensed to do that.
Right.
You know, if you want to check something,
Okay.
but you are not there.
Right.
I can't stick that thing in an outlet and it says reverse polarity.
Right. Like, yeah, I mean, I can tell my person, like, okay, well, this doesn't look like something we might have to work on. But the home inspector might find something different.
Okay.
But it gave us like, you're not going to want to do any of that stuff.
No.
I have that stuff because I handyman my way around my own house.
Okay.
Right, and everything you're going to learn in here, honey, it says buyer to verify
Right.
by the person that holds the
The
appropriate license.
Got it.
Now, once again, when I go on my listing appointment, it's not really a listing appointment. It's a meet and greet.
Right. And Debbie she'll do the little, role play
Mhm.
sometimes where she'll walk you through the house. And she'll do, like, look underneath the sink.
I look
Well,
under the sink to
well-
see if it's leaking.
Yeah, one of the things we saw on the home inspection, the first one I did, was that there's a cord and there was no conduit over it. So the home inspector is going to point out that there's no conduit. That's like a $2 thing you can buy at Home Depot and do yourself.
And if the hot water tank, now this is a new thing in plumbing, doesn't have a pressure release valve, it's like this thing that's up on the top, the home inspector will call that.
Right. Now
So-
that's not something you're gonna necessarily know, because I'm not a water heater guy, so I wouldn't know it was there.
Mhm.
But if you can look underneath your sink and see if there's exposed wire, then you're gonna know, well, you might need to get a handyman to come in here and fix this.
Mhm.
Right, or if I look under the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink and they have a tub down there,
Mhm.
Right.
I go, oh, is this leaking? Well, sometimes.
Get
Well,
some
and then I advise them at my meet and greet, well, why not, and they go, oh, my granddaughter's boyfriend's a plumber.
Right.
I go, bingo. Why don't you call your granddaughter and see if he can stop by? See, people today, everybody has relationships, right? Everybody's granddaughter, everybody's nephew, everybody's sister-in-law is a something. So use those vendors that they have relationships with.
And you're gonna, like, the other thing that I found with our home inspection was, like, the slow drains. Like, you can check those. Like, you know the guy's gonna flag a slow drain.
Mhm.
So just tell him, hey, put some Drano in it. See if it clears up. If it doesn't, get
Yeah.
a plumber in here.
Plunger.
Yeah.
People today, they don't plunge.
Yeah.
I am like the bathtub, the kitchen sink, the bathroom sink is so full of makeup and
Yeah.
toothpaste.
Well, my wife's sink won't drain to save its life unless you pour like a gallon of Drano down it every month. Yeah. So,
So same thing.
Those are things like you're not
I
going
don't
to try to
make
do
that.
something that a licensed person would do,
Mhm.
but like things that you would normally do around your house anyway
Okay.
that you would notice.
Okay.
But these people that are selling their homes might not notice those things.
Mhm.
So you just want to be on top of, like, that's all I use what I use that home inspection for, was to remind me of the simple everyday things that you
What they're
do
looking for.
anyway.
Okay.
The slow drain, maybe the exposed wire underneath the garbage disposal, because they never put that damn conduit on. No one ever puts it on. I didn't put it on when I first built the garbage disposal on. So you're not gonna like poke I do that because I've done it 1,000 times, while doing my own house to check the voltage. I wouldn't tell you to go out and buy one. That would be a bad idea.
No, because see, if you say it out of your lips, then the buyer and seller are going to hold you liable
Right.
because you're testing things.
Right. Right. So if I poke it in there and I see that the voltage is off, I'm not going to say, oh, your voltage is off. I'd say, you might want to get an electrician to come here and just check your electrical.
Yeah. Okay. So you just make recommendations
Right.
to
Right.
get them to get a licensed.
Right.
Right. And
Plumber,
honey, if I
electrician,
open a
etc.
panel box and there's 3 breakers missing, there's holes, well, I know that's not right,
Right.
but I'm not going to stick my finger in there,
Right.
but I'm just going to say, you might want to have an electrician come and take a look.
Okay.
Just like if I open up the kitchen sink and there's a dish pan down there,
Mhm.
I'm not going to lay on the floor because if I do, I won't get up. But I'm not going to go down there and try to figure out where the leak's coming from.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or if I go in where the lady does her stuff, You know, so many times I've pulled up the stopper, even in my own house, and the hair.
It's like that movie, The Ring.
Yeah,
The
it's
little girl with
disgusting.
the hair that sticks down. You ever see that movie?
Yeah.
It's
So
Halloween.
basically, we are there. Yeah. When I'm gonna go meet someone for the first time, now remember, this is your choice. You don't have to list it.
Mm-hmm.
If I go in and there's nicotine running down the walls, this was a true listing of mine one day at 10. There was a shotgun over in the corner. It was some crappy house in Leland or somewhere. Shotgun in the corner. A coffee can with more cigarette butts in than the Seminole Hard Rock Casino. Nicotine running down the walls. The guy had no shirt on. 10 o'clock in the morning, drinking a long neck bud. And he was sitting here, and I knocked, and he goes, "Come on in." And I went, "Oh my, this is not where a nice girl should be today." And he said, "I want blah, 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 not a penny less. So let's sign the papers." And I said, "Well, sir, why don't you give me a little tour?" "Oh, just walk around." And I came back, and whatever price he wanted, let's just say it was $250. And I never sat down. I stood right by the door, and I said, "Sir," I said, "you know, I don't think I'm the person for the job. I don't believe. You gotta believe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that I can market your home for $250,000. I told you I don't want a penny less." And I said, "Sir, I certainly understand." And I said, "Good luck." And I opened the door with my butt. You know, I walked out the door backwards because I didn't know if he was going to shoot me.
Mm-hmm.
And off I went. You know, you pick. You are the president and CEO of your own business. And if you think somebody, you can't work with them.
Same with buyers.
Oh,
Same
Yes.
Yes.
yes. You know, and people will say to me, "You have to." Now, in my mind, I'm going, I don't have to do anything. But I just say I'm not the right person for the job.
Okay.
And I don't know why realtors think they're prostitutes. You don't have to do business with everybody that says hello.
Mm-hmm.
And realtors get in trouble because they don't think, they're not cautious, they're not prepared. Several years ago, Anna got a call, floor call. It was not our listing, somewhere down in St. Pete, and she left here like a banshee chicken. She got to the property, she opened it up. The man parked on the side of the house, not in the front, came in and held her at gunpoint. He had already done it to another realtor prior to her. Then he called me, and then he called Valerie. Well, in his little pouch, he had rubber gloves. He had whatever those things are.
Ties.
Yep.
Zip ties.
And the only way Anna's life was saved was another realtor came up the sidewalk. The front door was open. He had Anna on the floor with a gun to her. You think she's a little nuts? And he heard the other realtor coming up with the customers, and he went out the side door. But he took her car keys. And this was on the news. I had to go to court. Anna had to go to court. I spent more time at the 49th Street Pokey. This guy lived out on Gandy in a rental apartment. He was middle-aged. He was an IT person that worked in Sarasota. But I guess he had a chip missing. And he wasn't calling us because we were young and beautiful. But he was calling top producers that he found on the internet to go look at something that wasn't our listing. And if I get,
But why wouldn't you vet, if this is a potential buyer, why would you not vet them first to see if they've been pre-qualified or if they've got the cash?
honey, and I took that call on that last desk back there on that side, and it was about 4:30, and he wanted to go see a 55 and older condo. And I said, are you 55? And he said, no, but I'm gonna live there. But see, my brain works so differently. I am such an analytical wackadoodle. And I said, well, sir, I said, that won't work for you. I'm not meeting you. But somehow Linda knew the voice. He was calling offices direct.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't calling cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda goes, that was the man. I'm not going to go to a vacant house that's not my listing unless I know every God's blessed thing about that buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we think we have to step and fetch?
Mm-mm.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I know agents get frustrated with me because, Ruth always goes, you know everything. I said I do. But I interview. I ask questions without the people knowing what I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
What is your time frame? How do you plan to pay?
Debbie's like that commercial. I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two.
Thanks, dear. Well,
But just when you think you've seen it all, something else comes by.
right. And my philosophy is time is money. Monday about 3 o'clock, I looked at Debbie Levatino. I said, I'm tired. I'm going home. And I said, I'm going to go home and watch Dr. Phil. I just get the biggest kick out of Judge Judy and Dr. Phil. Judge Judy teaches me how to negotiate. She taught me the word no. And so Debbie, she was all ready. She said she's leaving, and all of a sudden I got a message I had to write an offer. So I said, okay, I'm not going to see Judge Judy today. You go home and watch her for me. And I went back and I was on the computer till 6 o'clock. But I picked that.
Mm-hmm.
We are the president and CEO of our corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to do anything.
I don't know whether it's an age or an experience situation, but my time is valuable. 100%. And until I know, first of all, that you're qualified, until I know that you've got the money, until I know what type of property you want, until I know what your maximum, minimum, location, I want to know all of that.
Right.
And I will put in then whatever time you need me to find that house. But until I have that information, I'm not wasting my time.
No, because I believe time is money.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If I choose today to go home and watch Judge Judy at 3 o'clock, she cracks me up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my living room laughing to myself.
Oh, I know, she's hilarious.
And you know what that is? That's my what's the word I'm looking for? It's my hour of
downtime.
Yeah, and then at 4 o'clock I go, okay, you got to scrub the kitchen floor. Okay, you got to do this, you got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever my time out is, that's my choice. And no, I am not going to be forced to jump in my car and go chase somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But shame on us if we don't do the proper interview. And I am huge on buyer and seller interviews.
Yeah.
And I teach this, I give you the paper, I preach it, and then somebody gets a floor person, and the next thing I see, they're flying out of the
They're at the
parking lot.
door. You see, and again, this is one of the reasons why I chose this branch, is because I can meet customers here.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got that beautiful space.
It's beautiful. It really is.
I haven't been in there yet.
It's you
Still
haven't.
haven't.
I walk in there and say good morning to Linda too every morning. So
Yeah. And we're
I know there's
connected
another
now,
entrance.
Jeremy.
There's another entrance
Is
this
it?
side.
Yeah,
Oh.
and
It's really nice.
and all of those offices on that wall are going, and on the other side, and then we're gonna get all new flooring. But now the main entrance is in the middle.
Yeah, I saw it
Yeah.
said main entrance is there,
But yeah, isn't that sign lovely? Until we can get something made,
but
honey. You can say anything to me. I am the most picky. It has to be classy. It has to be done right. I went to Catholic
I'm with
school
you.
for too many years. Like today, I took down a little Halloween thing for candy on Linda's desk, and I said, "See those dishes? I'm taking those back to the kitchen. They're for the cats." By the way, we have 11 cats that live under the building. That's another one of my jobs.
Shouldn't have any mice.
Don't you want a cat?
I have
No.
two, and